Hiya. Here's some of the assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows from Mkultra, Project Mkultra, what they substances that they used. So I'll read them out to you. Substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient must be discredited in public. There we go. Number 2, substances which increase the efficiency of mentation and perception. Sometimes we get enhanced skills. Materials which will cause the victim to age faster or slower in maturity. I feel like I look a lot younger than my age of 31 because I don't get served in shops a lot of the time, but I think that's down to the managers being told beforehand, before I get to the shop, to not serve me, which is, I won't go into that, it's craziness. Materials which will promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Materials which will produce the signs and symptoms of recognized diseases in a reversible way so they may be used for malingering, etc. Materials which will cause temporary/permanent brain damage and loss of memory. Substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing. Materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use. Physical methods of producing shock and confusion over extended periods of time and capable of surreptitious use. Substances which produce physical disablement such as paralysis of legs, acute anemia, etc. I've had both of them, that where my legs have been more or less paralyzed, where I can't walk, which was ridiculous. Sorry, I've just had a message through from my mum, but I'll still play it through. Yeah, where I couldn't put one leg in front of the other at a few periods in my last 11 years or so. I couldn't work out how to walk, to move my legs, like it got that severe, and it had just come on all of a sudden. And I've had anemia too. When I went to the mental health ward, they put me on iron pills without telling me why. And then I asked, why am I on these? And they're like, oh, because you're anemic. So, oh, thanks for telling me. You just stick stickers on the pills. They don't tell you what the pills are for. They don't tell you what the pills do. They don't tell you what the antipsychotics do to you and the massive risks involved, which is ridiculous. They should be giving people warnings and they shouldn't be force drugging people like they do. And they still use electroshock therapy, by the way. Not therapy, electroshock torture, should I say. Substances which will produce a chemical that can cause blisters. Substances which alter personality structure in such a way the tendency of the recipient, if I pronounce that right, to become dependent upon another person is enhanced. A material which will cause mental confusion of such a type the individual under its influence will find it difficult to maintain a fabrication under questioning. Substances which will lower the ambition and general working efficiency of men when administered in undetectable amounts. And don't forget, this is back in the 50s. Substances which promote weakness or distortion of eyesight or hearing faculties, preferably without permanent effects. Well, my eyesight's gone nuts now. I can just about read what it says on here. A knockout pill which can be surreptitiously administered in drinks, food, cigarettes, as an aerosol, etc., which will be safe to use, provide a maximum of amnesia, and be suitable for use by agent types on an ad hoc basis. Material which can be surreptitiously administered by the above routes and which in very small amounts will make it impossible for a person to perform physical activity. And when I read all these, it's like I've had half of these things done to me at least, especially with the walking and that. And it's funny how it always refers to them as the individual as well, which and we are targeted individuals. And then it's got all this other stuff. This is all on Wikipedia. It's got all this other stuff about MK Delta, MK Search, some MKs I can't read, MK Chick Wit, MK Often. MK Often was to deal with testing and toxicological transmissivity and behavioural effects on drugs in animals and ultimately humans. MK Chickwit was concerned with acquiring information on drug developments in Europe and the Orient and with acquiring samples. And then it goes into all these different experiments, the drug LSD test. They did a lot on that. There's a lot of writing here on Wikipedia if you just go on to Mkultra to look up that. Canadian experiments, hypnosis. I think I've been hypnotized before. Declassified Mkultra documents indicate they studied hypnosis in the early 1950s. Experimental goals included the creation of hypnotically induced anxieties. So someone could say a couple of words to you and you'd be in an anxious state immediately. And I think that's been programmed into me, because sometimes I can be completely fine and then someone will be speaking to me and then boom, the anxiety hits me all of a sudden and I don't know where it's come from. Hypnotically increasing ability to learn and recall complex written matter. Sometimes I can retain information amazingly, especially when I'm in a highly anxious state. Other times I can't take anything in at all. It's like our ups are so much bigger and our downs are so much bigger to the average person. So we get massive downs, but we get massive ups as well. So in effect, we can feel happier than the average person too. We might feel much more down than the average person sometimes and much more anxious, but we can feel much more confident and much more happier as well, I believe. And studying relationship of personality to susceptibility to hypnosis. They conducted experiments with drug-induced hypnosis and with anterograde and retrograde amnesia while under the influence of such drugs. I've had retrograde amnesia from the bleed on the brain, which was done to me. I can't remember how it happened or who did it or what happened. That was before my prison sentence. So I was chained up in hospital, and then I got put on the hospital prison wing when my head had recovered a bit after doing numerous CT scans on it. But at that point, it was like I was drugged up with some very strange drug. But it could also be because I had the massive head injury, and you don't know what that feels like normally. But I could well have been drugged before it all happened, or after it had all happened, in order for me to have retrograde amnesia and not believe and not remember what happened at all. Yeah, Canadian experiments. There's quite a lot of writing on that through Canada. Then you've got deaths caused, legal issues involving informed consent. Well, we haven't informed anyone consent-wise, but it's still been done to us. They've just carried it on. They've probably changed the name to MK something or other, and that's all that's happened. They've changed the name. They didn't describe how it was done, how they got all these universities, hospitals and prisons involved. I've said this on numerous videos. I want to keep going over it so people that are non-targeted can realise, hold on a sec, this stuff could be happening, because they got lots of positive results with hypnosis and stuff like that. Something down here also about Sirhan Sirhan. I think I've scrolled past it. Conspiracy theories, which I don't think is a theory. I think he was actually brainwashed into doing that, and I don't think he remembers it. It says MKUltra plays a part in many conspiracy theories due to its nature and destruction of most records, because we never got to find out how they used it. But I think they used all the street theatrics and gang stalking techniques back then on the patients. Well, they're not patients, are they? On the poor old test subject victims. Nobody believed them then until this stuff came out, and still no one asks how it was done. How did they manage to put people in these hypnotic trances and stuff like that? No one asks that, but we need to start asking that. So it says, Lawrence Teeter, attorney for convicted assassin Sirhan Sirhan, believes Sirhan was under the influence of hypnosis when he fired his weapon at Robert F. Kennedy in 1968. Teeter linked the CIA's MKUltra program to mind control techniques that he claimed were used to control Sirhan, and I probably agree with that. I think that's what happened. If you look into it, you might come to the same conclusion. Conspiracy theorist Kathy O'Brien claims to have been subjected to the program since childhood. She names several prominent government participants in her book Transformation of America. American fashion model and radio host Candy Jones also claimed to have been a victim of mind control in the 1960s. They're probably all telling the truth, because I think that the whole world's under a form of mind control, but I think they try putting TIs under extreme mind control. But because we're put under extreme mind control, we're able to identify all the other people that are sedate under mind control, because we're gaining information somehow. We're pulling in more information because we're finding out. We've been sensitized and made hyper vigilant half the time. So we're sucking in information and analysing it really well, and finding, hold on, this was wrong. 9/11, Building 7, did they pull it? You know, them sort of questions. Why were the passports found when these buildings imploded all over the place? Why were the passports found outside the Pentagon when the plane had vaporized into nothingness, but the passports were absolutely fine of these terrorists? That don't make sense to any logical person. So why do they believe it? Why do they believe this stuff that the government tells them? Because of brainwashing. They need to just get them out of that way of thinking that, oh, they only want the best for us, really. All right, there's good people within, but there's bad people within as well, which has corrupted the whole system. It needs to be bloody deconstructed and reconstructed in a different way, in my opinion. Right, so I've read them things out. I just thought it'd be interesting. I have read them out before on a very old video, but I thought it'd be good to go over them things, because we all get them sorts of symptoms. And I think people should look up the drug scopolamine and what that does. It has no therapeutic value whatsoever, I don't think. And people should look up MDMA and post-traumatic stress disorder and the positive influences it's had with people with post-traumatic stress disorder, even diminishing their post-traumatic stress disorder, so they've basically not got it anymore, which is amazing. But unfortunately the drug's illegal. So what does that tell you? But an antipsychotic injected into my ass is legal, which costs 400 quid a time for the NHS. They want everyone on these things as well who have been diagnosed with a disorder like schizophrenia or whatever. The reason they're diagnosed with schizophrenia most of the time as well, rather than post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, is because schizophrenia, they get to put you on antipsychotics, which cost a lot of money. So the pharmaceutical industry's gaining loads out of that, and they probably give psychiatrists backhanders and special gifts and stuff in order to keep pushing these drugs upon people. So yeah, look up Sirhan Sirhan and the conspiracy of that if you get a chance. I think the Kennedy brothers knew too much. So yeah, definitely another inside job in my opinion. But come to your own conclusions. And thank you for watching and that, and thank you for subscribing to me if you're a new subscriber, and thank you for all my subscribers that are subscribing and watching my videos. It's very helpful, and thanks to all the helpful comments as well. Get the odd knobhead, but most of them are good. Thank you.